But JD, let's move on. Second thing we're going to talk about today. I asked you before the podcast, are we jumping the gun a little bit? You said no, so we kept this segment in. We're talking about the Giants, the G-Men, and it's not a good, good discussion here, as we're talking about Mr. Danny Dimes, Mr. Daniel Jones of the New York Football Giants. Dude signed an extension with this team. He still has, after this year, 3 years left on his deal. However, there is a out with the Giants. They could end the contract after this year. Actually, I walked that back. 2 years after this one. It's this year and 2 more. They do have a potential out, though, after this year. If they do take that out, they will eat $22 million of dead cap for Danny Jones for, I think, the next 2 years while the contract is still going. Daniel Jones against Minnesota in game 1 at home. 22 of 42. Just under or just over 50% of his pass completions. 186 yards. 2 interceptions, 0 touchdowns. Was sacked 5 times. QBR of 16.2. Giants lose 28-6 to my Minnesota Vikings. Skull. Here's the question I'm going to ask you, JD. Is this the last year of Danny Dimes? Will the Giants be faux show drafting a quarterback this year in the NFL draft?
They should be. But to be fair, like I've been saying that they should have got rid of him at least 2 years ago, 3 years ago. He hasn't shown anything. Personally, I did not
But
like
he
him
went to the Manning School. He went to the Manning Academy. He went to Duke because of Peyton Manning and Eli Manning.
Yeah, well, clearly their grace didn't touch him because yeah, that boy stinks. That's the thing. Like again, even most people didn't like Daniel Jones coming out of Duke.
Yeah.
The Giants messed that pick up from day one. And then what did they do to fix that, Ricky? Tell me, what did they do to fix that?
They let Saquon walk to the Eagles.
Well, not just that. No,
they didn't fix their offensive line.
They gave him a massive contract extension because why not, I guess, right?
Why not him? Why not him, right?
Yeah, and this isn't to rub salt in the wound for Giants fans. I do feel bad for you because your front office is incompetent. Yeah, it's just this should be the last straw. This guy sucks. The Giants did better with Tommy Cutlets at the helm.
Dude, I love Tommy Cutlets, dude. Yeah. Tommy Cutlets, baby.
But that
living in mom and dad's basement. Let's go.
Yeah, should that not say something though? Daniel Jones is the problem. This team, realistically, isn't that bad. Yeah. Yes, the offensive line sucks.
5 sacks, not great. Are they all on Daniel Jones?
No, I wouldn't say some of them were.
Sometimes it's like, wow, he hung on to the ball way too much. But not all of his sacks last year, this year, the years before were all his fault. That offensive line is Swiss cheese.
Yeah, they're bad, but that defense is pretty good. You also got a nice young wide receiver in Malik Neighbors, and so it's time to get an actual quarterback to lead this team. Now this year, I mean, there could be a couple quarterbacks that would suit the Giants. I'm thinking somebody like Shadur. Shadur could.
It's interesting you say that because Tankathon right now, I know it's only week 1, but they would sit 7th overall. Shadur is the guy that Tankathon has going to the Giants at 7 overall.
Yeah, I mean, really the only prospect that I would say that I wouldn't love is, as of right now, I would say that would probably be Quinn Ewers.
Okay.
But I really like Ewers. I just think that they need something. They need like I know yours is mobile,
Mm-hmm.
but they need somebody who is a little more athletic. I feel like they need like
Okay.
a schematic like that could help change their schematic or scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And Quinn Ewers, I think he's more of a pocket passing quarterback,
Yeah.
which again, I really like him. I just don't know if he fits the Giants per se.
Mm-hmm. So you're for
Um,
sure looking for a more mobile, like a mobile
yeah,
guy, an
yeah,
athlete.
Milrow, I feel like could
Mm-hmm.
be interesting. Like I said, Shadur, even though I don't love Shadur, I think that could
Mm-hmm.
also be pretty interesting. Um,
You just like
uh,
Milrow because he's not on top of the athleticism. He's able to throw and run.
yeah, exactly. He again, especially with their wide receivers, I feel like their
Mm-hmm.
wide receivers are more like what they're not like six
They're
foot
fast.
four. Yeah,
Like Jalen
but
Hyatt, Malik Neighbors, they're
yeah,
fast, not tall.
yeah, and they're good at getting open in like
Uh
the
huh.
intermediate routes. So if you have somebody that can extend the play and then that will allow the wide receivers
Mm-hmm.
to, I guess, like change their route, I think that'd be more beneficial to that offense.
You know who else I would really that I you talking about? Okay, they need a guy. This guy, I wouldn't say athletic is the word that I would not use for him. Maybe I should. Maybe it's because I just have the stereotype. You know how it's like white quarterback. You don't want to call him athletic. Like
Yeah,
you use a spark plug. Uh, I like Jackson Dart though, dude. Jackson Dart's a guy. He's not gonna be the quickest runner, but he's a guy that can throw the ball and he can run with the ball. But yet again, it's a different kind of running than like what you may see with like an AR in the league right now, with a Milrow who's in college right now. I hate to say it, the Giants might not need to look to the first round for a quarterback. Now I say this week 2, before week 2 of the NFL season. Like right now, many people have Carson Beck and Shadur Sanders as the only first round quarterback. Some have Quinn Ewers slipping up in there, but like Tankathon right now, actually I'll say 3. I will put Ewers in there. So Tankathon has Beck, Sanders, Ewers as the only first round quarterbacks. Everyone
well,
else right now is in the second. How many of those guys rise into the first? I know you and I talked about it a little bit on the draft room, mainly between Beck and Sanders. But like, if Milrow, let's say, doesn't get into the first round, the Giants might not need to use a first round pick on a quarterback, is kind of what
yeah.
I'm thinking.
Well, yeah, and I would agree with that because even if you look outside of the top quarterbacks, I know
Mm-hmm.
this guy has been talked about as a potential
Yep.
top quarterback, but I don't absolutely love him. I know Kai does, but Connor Weekman
Okay.
from Texas A&M, he's kind of like what I just talked about. He has really good arm talent
Mm-hmm.
as well as he's good at extending plays, like slipping through the tackles
Yeah.
and just avoiding the pass rushers. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be something very beneficial to the Giants. And
Mm-hmm.
before any Giants fan says, "Oh, well, JD, Daniel Jones actually does roll out and run for
Oh,
first
he
downs
he
or whatever."
can run. Danny Dimes got legs, but he's
Yeah,
not athletic.
no, he can't do both. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
rarely seen it where I see Daniel Jones rolling out of the pocket and hucking the ball
Yeah.
50 yards downfield. You don't see that. If he takes
Mm-hmm.
off, he's running with it. There's no
Yeah.
throwing on the run.
The other thing I'm thinking about here, give me literally like 2 seconds. I got to do like 2 seconds of research before because yet again it's like, okay, what is he even? I'm gonna throw out a thought to you. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's say the Giants sit there and they're like, you know what? We're not sold on Beck or Sanders or Quinn Ewers. Do the Giants come together and go, okay, we're going to take the best prospect available outside of quarterback that's going to help this team. We keep Danny Jones for one more year. Basically, at that point, it's like, okay, you're keeping him for the whole contract then, because the potential out is this year. You keep him for one more year, meaning then he's down to his last year of his contract. I'm even going to fact check if I'm right there, because I believe... Give me that spot rack real quick. Yeah, so after this year, the potential out is this year. After this year, if they keep him, they got to keep him for 2 more years unless they trade him. You say, okay, we're going to keep you. You let the 2025 season play out. But let's be honest, you keep him to a tight leash of like, hey, if you don't look good, we're going to bench you. And basically, the thing I'm going to, JD, is do they in 2025 say, hey, we're going to keep you and just hope we're better? You might not even have to keep him to a short leash. Just let him play, because you're not going to win games. And basically the 2025 year, you forego quarterback this year to in 2025 tank for Arch Manning. Because Arch Manning right now is year 2. Next year would be year 3. He would be eligible for the draft after next season. Now, will Arch come out after 3 years? Will he stay a 4th year? That nobody knows right now. But if Arch is going to come out after 3 years, would the Giants not just go, hey, let's not worry about drafting a quarterback this year, only if they're not for sure on Beck or Sanders or even Ewers, and say, you know what? We're going to tank for Arch next year.
I don't love that dude, because like I said, I think
you don't love it because you don't want Arch to go to the Giants and have his career ruined?
No, it actually has nothing to do with that. Well, for me, it's more of a 2-point answer.
Okay.
So first, like I said, I'm pretty much stuck in the mud on my belief with Daniel Jones. If you have an out, you got to use it. Even if you don't have an alternative at quarterback, like if you don't take a quarterback in the first round this upcoming draft, maybe take one in the second round. You got to do that. You got to try something new. This Daniel Jones experiment is done. It's dead. You got to move on and cut bait, and he can be a backup or maybe a starter somewhere else.
Now, I'm going to throw in a quick question. Does the $22 million dead cap scare you? Or is it a, hey, maybe we keep him while drafting a quarterback, let a Sanders or a Beck or a Ewers or even any of the other quarterbacks, we're going to do the Jordan Love, the Aaron Rodgers, where it's like, you're going to sit behind him for 2 years. Once his contract's done, though, he's gone and it's your time.
I don't think so, because in that situation, you're just going to piss the fan base off even more. Okay. Because I think Giants fans would agree. Let's just say hypothetically they draft somebody like Shedeur.
Yeah.
Even though, again, I don't love him as a prospect, but he's going to be the exciting quarterback next year. The
like you can't draft him and then just sit him.
Yeah, it's like he's gonna sell jerseys, and the fans are gonna want him to start. And especially when your quarterback, again, is about 3 years past his exit date. And yeah, so with that, I think like you can't keep kicking the can down the road. And then my other point is, again, even for as good as we all think Arch Manning is going to be, we also just don't know yet. And it'd be kind of dumb to be like, all right, let's just hope that this guy's good and in 3 years and then take, or 2 years and then take him. Like you can't be living that far into the future with the NFL, just because, again, things change all the time. There's times where a quarterback is good as a freshman or a sophomore and then stinks as a junior.
Let's be honest though, Arch Manning, he's different, dude. Like,
I wouldn't say so.
He's different. Like, this is gonna be so, like, I will for a fact put it down that next year when we're talking about the draft, if he's gonna come out, We're talking about him the same way we looked at Andrew Luck, the suck for luck. The same way we looked at those bona fide number 1 overall pick quarterbacks.
See, I disagree because, again, I watched a lot of his high school film.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many guys sucked in high school and then became great in college?
But my point is, dude, he was a number 1 recruit coming out of high school by far.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on the side with like other people that if his last name wasn't Manning, he probably wouldn't have even been a 5-star talent. He would have probably been a 4-star.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my beef. There's all this hype behind him because of his last name. Sure, in his limited reps with the first team for Texas, he's been okay for freshman and with limited reps. But from pure talent, I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion that he's gonna be the number 1 overall pick in 2 years.
Well, it would be. Well, I mean, technically, too. Like, not this draft, but next draft.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think that he's gonna, yet again, development. I think that he's the only thing I can knock him on is I have a little questions about his awareness and his ball security because he can't hang on to a college ID to save his life. He's got bad awareness. You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't know where things are and he keeps losing stuff. You brought this guy up. I'm just going to throw it out there because I was looking at walterfootball.com. They usually do like hey, like I know it's 2025, but let's take a look at next year's draft and do a mock that way. They have Jalen Milroe as the number 1 overall pick, not this year, but next year. What would you mentioned Milroe for the Giants here. What would you say? I know we're early in the year, but percentage that Milroe stays in college because he's played 4 years, but that first year he only played a game or 2 and got redshirted.
I would say, honestly, it's probably more of a 50-50.
Okay. So there's not even a quarterback like him. He might not even come out this year.
Yeah, well, and my reasoning for that is, again, he redshirted, right? So, so this is, well, he started last year, I believe. Yeah. Started last year, and then this year, obviously, he's starting. And my only kind of like reasoning for it is that he might want to win, right? Like, because let's just say he has a good season this year. I think it'll be still harder for him to be the number 1 overall pick, let's say. So he might run it back and run his chances of becoming the number 1 overall pick next year. But like he has decent size, right? Like he's 6'2", and what's his weight? I can't find a weight, but he's not a small guy. He's about like average, maybe a little shorter than you would like, but he runs a 4.6, so not terribly slow. Well, not really slow at all, really, but yeah, he's just a good dual threat quarterback. So I kind of think he would maybe take his chances and go back to Alabama for another year, just because it doesn't really hurt anything.
Yeah.
You have guys like Mac Jones who did that and wasn't half the prospect that he was. So
it's just going to be interesting, dude, with these Giants. Like, obviously, it comes down to what the Giants are going to do this year. But at the end of the year and end of the discussion, I think both you and I agree, Daniel Jones ain't the answer.
No.
Whether it's Milroe this year, Milroe next year, Shadur this year, Beck this year, Ewers this year, Arch next year, something's got to give.
Yeah.
Before we end this segment, there was one thing I was going to bring up that you and I have to, I know it's different podcast, but you and I have to atone to it. You ready for this?
Yeah.
The MVP curse lives on, JD. You're familiar with the MVP curse, right? We say something on the podcast, the exact opposite happens. Do you know what I'm referencing this week in college football?
Oh, college.
Who did we talk about last time on the draft room? A certain quarterback, and neither you or I were very high of him, and we kind of we didn't say he sucked, but we were like, you know what, Shedur's probably gonna overtake him at some point.
Is it Beck? Yeah,
we didn't say anything bad about him, but we were both not the highest on him. Yeah. And I find it funny. We're just you know what? It's a product of the system, dude. He's just a Georgia court, and then goes out and says, okay, I'm going to throw for 240 yards, 5 touchdowns, 18 of 25 completions to attempts. Yeah, I know it's Tennessee Tech, but I'm just going to have one of the best games of my life on Saturday. And I was watching that, and I'm just sitting there going, is he playing well because of us? Because of what we said? Is he balling out because of us? Well,
I think I did notice that actually.
When I noticed he had 5 touchdowns, I'm like, yep, I'm taking credit for that. That's an MVP curse. Talk right over it. But Giant fans, I want to hear from you. JD wants to hear from you. What do you guys think down below? What's the plan with Daniel Jones? You targeting a quarterback this draft? What quarterback do you want? Let us know down below in that description. As always, we'd like to thank the people that make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen now. If you would like to become a patron, go ahead and click the Patreon icon in the bottom right. And if you'd like to check out another video from MVP Sports, hit the video in the upper left. As always, thanks for watching.